Hello, it is Saturday, November 3rd. I am Nurbek Savitakhunov. You're watching news from Kazakhstan. Bostandik District Criminal Court in Almaty sanctioned a 2-month arrest of Askar Moldashev. Askar is the brother of Danyar Moldashev, director of Golos Respubliki newspaper. He is charged with illegal possession of drugs for the purpose of trafficking. On its own, the crime does fall under the category of flagrant violations and may result in a 15-year prison term. Our correspondents were able to talk to Moldashev personally and find out more about the controversy.
This is the first footage of Askar Moldashev since his arrest. He shares his version of the events explaining the detention. I was approached in the Department of Internal Affairs where I drafted a notice. Nurjan, the official with National Security Committee, offered me to make a choice. He gave me 30 minutes to think it over and reply whether I would agree to work for them and report information received by the newspaper Respublika as well as website. He said that I needed to persuade my brother to cooperate too, and finally said that otherwise he was going to ruin my life and the lives of my loved ones. Askar Moldashev is the blood brother of the director of the opposition newspaper Golos Respubliki. He was detained by police early morning on October 31st. Askar was returning home after having taken his son to school. On Friday, he revealed the details of his arrest. They put a blue bag over my head and threw me into the minivan. I screamed and everyone heard it. After that, they spread some substance over my palms and put my hands here and stuck my hand into my pocket. Moldashev's attorney Inessa Kiseleva says that the detention report was made with violations. The judge who issued an arrest warrant for Askar Moldashev also made a special ruling against the prosecution and the head of Almaty National Security Committee. The judge pointed out that the detention report was not made on time. Askar was detained on October 31st at 8:20 a.m. and the detention report was made at 1:30 p.m. on November 1st. Moldashev's spouse filed a private appeal against the prosecutor of the Bostandik districts and Almaty city. Tatiana Moldasheva reported blatant violations of her husband's rights since police had kept the relatives and close ones of Askar unaware of his arrest for 12 hours.
Civil activist Vadim Kuramshin committed an act of self-mutilation inside a Petropavlovsk detention facility. He found himself behind bars after a revision of his acquittal by the appeals board. He is now incriminated with arbitrariness under Part 1 of Article 327 and is facing 1 year in prison. He is being transported under guard to Taraz. More details in the next report.
This video was made 2.5 months ago in Taraz. Here, human rights activist Vadim Kuramshin is released in the courtroom after extortion charges were reclassified as arbitrariness. Vadim was sentenced to 1 year in prison but served the term while waiting for the verdict. 3 days ago, Kuramshin sought an urgent contact with media. The policemen are breaking into my apartment. I refuse to let them in and they're currently attempting an assault. I don't think my door will hold for longer than half an hour. Vadim was arrested and placed in the Petropavlovsk temporary detention facility where he attempted a suicide by slashing wrists. Later he was reported to be convoyed back to Taraz. The well-known activist was first detained in Kordai village of Zhambul region on January 23rd. One of the entrepreneurs requested him to do something about ongoing bribery at the customs post. After looking into the case, Kuramshin himself ended up in trouble after the assistant attorney Mukhtar Udirbayev charged him with extortion. 3 days ago, the previous verdict was cancelled and Kuramshin was placed under detention again. This looks like a put-up job because there were no lawful or somewhat reasonable grounds for cancelling the verdict. The causes for a sentence vacation shown in the protest appeal are not even worthy of attention. On Friday, the public prosecutor made the following statement. It's beyond my authority to comment on the situation. During the past week, Vadim Kuramshin made quite a few posts across social networks stating that he was kept under surveillance by security officials. He seemed to have known about the outcome and the eventual imprisonment. This must have something to do with his recent trip to Warsaw, where he attended the OSCE session on human dimension. On top of that, during 2.5 months after the release, he revealed a lot of what he saw happening in jails. It is nearly impossible to ascertain the truth for Vadim's case at this point. Now this case will be reviewed by a different composition of court.
Union and opposition leader Yesenbek Ukteshbayev is returning to Kazakhstan despite threats of his arrest.
About a year ago, criminal proceedings were initiated against Yesenbek Ukteshbaev, resulting from his activity as a unionist and co-chairman of a socialist movement of Kazakhstan. Ukteshbaev believes that was the way the government retaliated against him for supporting the striking oilers in Zhanaozen. Eventually, he was forced out of the country, but continued activities covering and supporting current events in Kazakhstan from Moscow, where he has been residing for the last year. Ukteshbaev was attracting attention to the actions of Kazakh government by holding press conferences, protest rallies, and pickets.
The
recent repressions prove that the current government regime is coming to an end. The people of Kazakhstan are going through hard times. I feel that this is the moment I need to be with my people.
In other news, Sabina Makhinina, prisoner of a penal settlement colony in Pavlodar region, has suspended her hunger strike announced almost a month ago. The woman is now in hospital but will soon be transferred back to the colony, reports the Correctional System Committee.
Previously, Sabina Makhinina announced a hunger strike protesting against the administration of the prison, voicing her demands in videos uploaded on the internet. The woman claimed that the prison administration persecuted, beat her up and even attempted to rape her. The Internal Security Department of the Regional Department of Internal Affairs checked the validity of the statements but failed to find any confirmation. On Friday, the local administration of the correctional system said that Makhinina might have gone on hunger strike to achieve her own goals, as the woman has several reprimands on her record and is now facing a transfer to a more strict prison. She made all those statements after numerous violations which led to her transfer to a closed-ward prison. She thought that her claims would overrule all the violation reports, and this way she wouldn't have to return into the other prison.
A mass fight with use of firearms involving local and foreign students broke out in the southern Kazakhstan town of Kintau. The Regional Department of Internal Affairs confirmed the fact but refused to make any comments, only saying that no reports came in from the injured. An eyewitness of the mass scuffle, a student from China who wished to remain anonymous, spoke with us on the phone.
Local students had their own way of educating repatriates who moved here from abroad. They showed them what Kazakhstan really is in their own way. They kept mocking us in various ways. Their intention is to gain control. We are constantly subjected to physical abuse, and they have tested our patience for a month. One of repatriates was injured during a confrontation with locals. However, the police and the university are concealing this fact. We have no choice. We are afraid to speak and to be quiet at the same time. We need help. We are expecting justice from the government of Kazakhstan. Right now, all the blame is placed on us, and our guys are already leaving the place.
The much talked about story of Kazakh citizens freed from slavery in Moscow was covered in detail at a press conference organized by activists of the Alternativa movement, as well as those who took part in the operation. They said the Moscow police has finally opened a criminal case on the matter, although the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs is yet to confirm the information.
On Friday, 2 young women freed from slavery appeared before the press, sharing shocking details of their captivity. Both were held in the back of the grocery store, beaten with wrenches, underfed and forced in 18 to 20-hour shifts a day. Back in 2003, the women gave birth while in captivity, but the owners of the store took their babies away and later told them that their children died. Russian human rights activists are very surprised that Kazakhstan authorities have yet to respond in any way to the story. I personally called the embassy of Kazakhstan but ended up transferred from one office to another. No reaction followed. I've consulted with friends from Kazakhstan and realized that I'd rather spend my time on something else. The mother of one of the freed girls was given a paper in the consulate of Kazakhstan and was explained that Russia and Kazakhstan are friendly nations which signed a lot of treaties. Therefore, she had to go to the Galyanova PD. But activists and women freed from slavery blame this very police department for inaction. They say police officers were aware of the store illegally holding foreigners. Moreover, they actually prevented slaves every possible attempts to escape. KplusTV will continue to follow the fate of the freed women. Right now, they really need moral and material aid. And on Friday, KplusTV helped them find housing in Moscow. Tune in on Monday for Vlas KZ for a detailed report about the incident.
In similar news, after the recently ratified Journalist Ethics Code in Kazakhstan, UNICEF published an international code for the protection of children's rights. In essence, it is a reference book on how not to harm young citizens and how to ethically cover the issues of childhood. Find out more in the next story.
Темы ближайшего выпуска новостей.
Nurgul Talgat has 4 children who need constant supervision. Nurgul doesn't know how to guard them against violence and cruelty on TV. She can manage it only when she's around. In the news, for example, they show how one kid was kidnapped and another killed. I don't let them watch anything like that because it's harmful for a child's psyche. They become scared and wake up late at night. For instance, my daughter was watching a movie about a bride who was locked up. She asked me why did it happen to the girl, and I explained that if she stays good, she will never get locked up. Aydar Yesinbekov believes that in their pursuit of higher ratings, reporters often inflate others' private life into something shocking. It seems to me that reporters who specialize in protection of children's rights need to leave stereotypes behind. For instance, some media sources have already created a negative perception of the society around the cruelty of adoptive parents. It's a negative myth, but it does work, and as a result, children suffer. Some psychologists say that the information flow is necessary and one cannot put a fence between it and the real life. Many know the story behind Buddha. He was raised in the palace. Up until he was 18, he knew nothing about hunger and cold. When he turned 18, he went to the streets and was shocked. For the first time in his life, he saw physically disabled, sick and poor people. You see, he wasn't prepared for the realities of life. That's when he decided to help such people and became a god. Obviously, our children will not turn into gods. That's why they should be taught in young age to differentiate between good and bad. Rosa Kalbekova worked with children's rights protection for many years. She had seen many different and complicated cases in her career. Every issue should be resolved in the best interest of a child. That's according to Article 3 of the Convention on the Children's Rights. All state authorities at all levels, as well as non-government agencies, should act in the interest of a child. Child's rights should come first and then everything else. Nurgul herself doesn't really know whether she can protect her children against negative information. After all, there is no common recipe or opinion on this matter, only advices and suggestions.
The Muslim Union of Kazakhstan organized a campaign against renaming Zhanaozen. Its leader, Murat Telibekov, believes it is necessary to organize public hearings to change the name of Governor Baurjan Muhamedjanov. All the ideas are asked to be sent to the organization's address. Several ideas are already including in particular the name Abay Shakarimovich Kurmangazy. Up next, journalists speak of the intellect, honor, and conscience of the country's modern political elite.
The idea of renaming mayors along with settlements was introduced by the Muslims Union of Kazakhstan. According to its leader, Murat Telibekov, a new name should reflect the mind, the honor, and the conscience of the Kazakh nation. One of the elders in the Mangistar region suggested giving Baurjan Muhamedjanov a different name of Abay Shakarimovich Kurmangazy. He believes that this will improve the economy along with the morality and spirituality changing the entire region. Should this experiment go well and the mayor agrees, we will rename Zhanaozen and the Mangistar region, and then we will rename Kazakhstan accordingly as well. Public hearings in Mangistau are dedicated to the issue of renaming Zhanaozen into Biket Ata. During the interview, the governor of the region, Baurjan Muhamedjanov, makes it clear that this idea sounds very appealing to him. I believe it is good to have debates on the issue. There is nothing dramatic about it if it concerns people of the region and residents of Zhanaozen in particular. Therefore, I support whatever they do right now. The governor said renaming Zhanaozen into Biket Ata is still a pending issue. In the meantime, the mayor's office is a bit confused by the offer of the Muslims Union of Kazakhstan. I have read the article, however, I cannot make comments for the mayor. Apparently, the issue of renaming the mayor of Mangistar region, Baurjan Muhamedjanov, remains pending as well.
Those employees of Karajan Basmunai sacked due to last year's strikes demand support from the governor of Mangistar region to help them with re-employment. Around 40 people from 3 service units also asked for help in receiving compensations for the idle days.
According to oil workers, their former employer Karajan Basmunai has been ignoring their demands for a year and a half. A peaceful rally in front of the Aktau company office didn't bring any results, and the instructions of the president are still ignored. All appeals and letters of the dismissed employees remain unanswered. Alexander Pistolov, a representative of the workers, is outraged and doesn't understand why officials do not fulfill the orders of the head of the state. Laid-off employees once again appealed to the governor of the region after they were visited by Alex Aydarbayev, the general director of Kazmunay Gas. Their very brief talks with him didn't bring any results either, forcing the oil workers to appeal to the president. His order to resolve a collective labor dispute of oil workers in the Mangistau region was not executed by the government, Karim Masimov, or the National Fund Samruk-Kazana, the head of which was later dismissed. It was not enforced by a single ministry related to gas and oil industries, nor by any organization. They didn't fulfill a single demand of oil workers or legitimate orders of the president.
The president's administration on Friday voiced the exact number of state servants who might be sacked. The list might include ministers and their deputies, governors and their entourage. The plan is to leave just around 500 out of more than 3,000 state employees.
At an international conference on the effective governance in Astana, the deputy head of the president's administration said that political civil servants will be reclassified as administrative ones. However, it does not mean the reduction of the government of executive office members. Notably, administrative civil servants will form an elite corps of officials. First, a talent pool will be drafted from current executives. Then the president's commission, led by the chief of staff, will conduct a rigorous selection. Knowledge of English appears to be one of the main prerequisites. Now, if a minister is dismissed as a civil servant, he will be able to join the group of the elite or administrative civil servants through the President's Commission. Moreover, the salary of the officials in the elite corps, dubbed Corps A, will be raised by a wide margin. Ministers and their deputies will engage in sectoral policies, developing legislation and providing facilities for efficient work. The executive secretary will be in charge of the government executive office. In particular, he will monitor the efficiency of civil servants in carrying out the president's orders. The heads of regional administration will be responsible for ensuring stability in the region and solving all the issues of the population.
Also on Friday, head of the Customs Committee Majid Yisenbaev commented on the claims of MPs and senators on the absence of balance in the joint work of customs institutions of Russia and Kazakhstan. Responses were made outside the parliament building. Details follow.
Considering the growing criticism of the customs union, the head of Kazakhstan's customs department, Majid Yisenbaev, went against the trend and said that Russian customs representatives work for the good of Kazakhstan. The reverence gesture towards the neighboring empire took place during the advisory board session on Friday in the presence of the Russian guest, the Minister for Customs Cooperation, Vladimir Goshin. They are a great help to us in terms of working on customs legislation and administrative issues. Moreover, with help of Russian customs representatives, the control at Korday checkpoint on the border with Kyrgyzstan, monitored jointly with the Kazakh-Kyrgyz customs services since August, already brings positive results. Everything is well balanced, says the official, since the Russian delegation is quite big indeed, yet diplomatic immunity is granted only to the leaders. The criticism against the agency management surfaced upon enactment of a bill on establishing the Joint Board of Customs Services, since it seems that supranational authority doesn't consider the interests of Kazakhstan. How can we talk about parity when there are only 10 representatives of Kazakhstan's Customs Committee working in Russia, while the number of Russian counterparts in Kazakhstan already reached 57, taking into account our small economic volume in comparison to that of Russia? Kazakh entrepreneurs topped it off by confirming concerns of other MPs. The change of Russia's customs duties upon its accession to the WTO turns out to be disadvantageous for the consumers of Kazakhstan. Russia's custom duties reflect on increased import prices that affects everyone, all customers in stores, gas stations or airports. The ratio of Kazakh customs officials against the Russian counterparts may change again next year. In 2013, Majid Yisenbaev's department will lay off 10% of staff due to the partial transition to the system of electronic declaration of goods.
Discussions around the cumulative pension system in Kazakhstan are underway. Representatives of large cumulative pension funds are seeking to increase the percentage of mandatory contributions to the funds. The state is thinking on how to unload the budget while citizens have no one to count on. More details in the next report.
50,000 tenge a month, one-third to cover utility fees, another to buy medicines and the rest to survive for a couple of weeks. Amangelde Ramkulov is the first Kazakh master of sports and weightlifting. His pension is certainly not enough, and that's why the 71-year-old retiree is forced to work, coaching children at school. Back at the times of the Soviet Union, medical services and education were free, the allowances were significant, and pensions were up to twice as high. The population of Kazakhstan is aging and longevity increases while budget and oil resources are far from infinite. Government officials are trying to adjust the game rules by raising the retirement age for women. However, experts consider this. Poor state management is finding jobs for seniors is almost impossible.
Мы не можем обеспечить работой тех, кому за 40.
We are currently unable to provide it to the people over 40, let alone women in retirement age. Every woman at 58 years of age will face 3 competing job seekers. It is great to have experienced doctors and lawyers that only get better in time, just like good wine. But sometimes even good wine can turn into vinegar by the age of 63.
Хорошее вино, да? Но извините меня, иногда и хорошее вино к 63 годам уксусом становится.
A young entrepreneur, Birjan Yalshabek, is already investing into his future. The self-reliant businessman is convinced the government won't help much when he's old. I don't trust pension funds all that much, that's why I opted for private entrepreneurship. I'm not willing to make 10% pension fund contributions with each salary. What will happen to this money in case of inflation and monetary depreciation? Discussions about pension reform is one of the hardest strands today, and the population wonders if there is a solution to benefit everyone. Should the solidarity pension be reinforced, or would it be better to completely or partially refuse from the funded pension model? The chairman of Kazakhstan Pension Fund Association, Aydar Alibayev, doesn't expect anything revolutionary to happen. In my opinion, the government has no incentives to change anything. They feel comfortable about the current situation, which is one of the reasons why there won't be any significant improvements. The finance ministry sees the pension fund assets as a perfect source of financing. At a rough estimate, 10 billion out of 20 is reserved for the state-dedicated program, which in fact means additional 10% from pension funds and 5% tax liabilities to budget. But it has already been compensated by the funds that were forcibly withdrawn from us. The perfect pension model is yet to be found. Gildiram Kulov doesn't regret the way he lived his life. Just like everyone else, he's used to all the social twists and turns. His only concern is what the future will bring to the younger generation of Kazakhstan citizens.
In an alarming trend, the number of AIDS cases among donors and pregnant women increased in Astana. This data was presented by the city's AIDS center.
The country is seeing a sharp increase of HIV infection cases, with forecasts not encouraging either. In the near future, doctors expect a further rise in the number of HIV patients from 17 to 21%. In the past, HIV was spreading mostly among risk groups such as drug addicts, sexual minorities and prostitutes, but now the entire population seems to be at risk. Cases among donors and pregnant women raise particular concern. 9 cases of HIV infection among blood donors were recorded in the last quarter of the year alone. On November 1st, the number of cases among pregnant women has reached 12 people.
Residents of Simei are getting accustomed to a new service. 2 big vehicles with a red cross on the panel is a free form of special transportation for people with disabilities. We take a ride in a taxi for the disabled in the next and final story.
A car with a red cross has been coming to this neighborhood for already several months. At first, local residents were curious, as it wasn't an ambulance but still had medical markings. Later, people learned that it was a taxi, picking up their neighbor Oleg. He's a handicapped with a second-degree disability, almost blind and cannot go out without a guide. His 10-year-old daughter used to accompany him to hospitals and pharmacies, but now Oleg has new honorary guards, complete with a personal taxi and a group of volunteers. I can't move around by myself because I'm handicapped, so volunteers are a great help. This is an excellent service. They drive me to the hospital and back. I want to thank Komet organization, as they helped me greatly. If I walked by myself, it could really end badly. This volunteer project started in Simei not a long time ago. Nevertheless, it has already raised public interest. Every day 2 cars, one for adults and another for children, run through the city. Our organization has been dealing with problems of disabled people since 2001. The idea for launching this project came up due to social isolation of the disabled. They're always staying inside. We purchased those vehicles with the support of the Japanese embassy. Our project helps the handicapped people to reintegrate into society. There are approximately 12,000 handicapped people in Simei, a city notorious for its proximity to a nuclear testing site. Volunteers say they can provide transportation for no more than 10 people a day. Therefore, logistics of a handicapped accessible taxi service is rather specific. The list of people and their routes are worked out in advance. The staff of the group is also limited, since volunteers work in their spare time. Their car service and gasoline is provided by local residents who are not indifferent to the issue, as well as entrepreneurs and donor organizations.
That is all we have time for now. Be sure to tune in to Vlast KZ on Monday. Have a great weekend. See you next Tuesday.